Greetings and welcome to another episode of SeptumSin versus the World. I'm SeptumSin. I am here with our animation Anticlimax crew, which I'm sure Roger will rejoin us in June when we return to anime. But I'm here with, of course, Jake, Dave, who has kind of come back to us for a short time. So I guess he's our Roger for today. And of course, Brittany from Embryo Arts, or I don't know. And today we're starting a long adventure. It's the start of an adventurous time, one might say. Adventure time, as I keep chicken nuggets from a cat.
A great challenge indeed.
Started in this series started in 2010, April 5th, 2010. Aired, and stars a young boy, Finn, and his dog as they navigate a fantastical, wondrous world with all their good friends and enemies. So, I guess we'll go ahead with first impressions. So, Brittany, was this your first time ever watching Adventure Time?
No. This has been one of those that sort of my fan base got me into, and I've kind of been suckered into it since. So I have enjoyed it. It's very lore heavy, and you have to really look for little details and keep track of things. Because minute details come from every episode, basically, including the Find the Snail game. If you guys don't know, there is a snail hidden in every episode. And they do play a relevance sometimes, but sometimes they're just there. But yeah, I enjoy it. It's a great series.
All right. So, Jake, was this your first time with Adventure Time?
Not entirely, but mostly. Like, I believe you showed me a couple of episodes. I know you'd shown me one with the oh jeez, what am I with the Ice King. Sorry, my brain just completely fritzed for a moment. You showed me a Ice King episode. I know that. So I had also, I know the show by reputation, I see the comics all the time at the library, so I definitely see the images. I know a lot of the characters, at least, visually. But this is really the first time I've done anything remotely approaching a deep dive of the show. And yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty interesting. I will admit that you guys had said the first season was a little more, I guess, haphazard maybe than the later ones. That was kind of the impression I got. I was a little bit surprised that the Ice King ended up being like one of the main recurring characters, and Marceline's only in 2 episodes, and just the characters I expected to see a lot of. The distribution throughout the season was nowhere close to what I expected. So that was interesting, but overall, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
All right, yeah. Dave, was this your first time seeing Adventure Time?
It definitely was. Now, I've actually met and am friends with Dave Gruner, who is lead animated coordinator, I believe, on the show. And had not seen the show, heard a lot about it. And I know a lot of people cosplay it and whatnot. I guess at the time I had no interest whatsoever. But since Brandon sent me a copy, it's kind of piqued my interest to watch it. And weirdly enough, I actually like it. So wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. And I pretty much enjoyed the first season of it, going through it. I'm sure it probably just gets better as it goes. So, but glad that I was able to sit down and understand a few of the characters. Some of the characters are annoying, but that being said, it's interesting. So,
Oh, yeah, there are a lot of annoying characters in this, but that's all right. Some of them get better, some of them don't. And this is not my first time, obviously, but when I first saw this, I saw the art style and I was like, pass. And a lot of people, including friends I used to game with, and someone used to tell me, no, you should watch this show. It's really good. I'm like, pass. Because every time I would see the characters, I was just like, oh, God. I don't like
the characters.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they always kind of reminded me of like from the Powder Puff generation. And I was not into Powder Puff girls at all. So...
even that, I feel like the art style is a little more stylized and more consistent and whatnot. This one, the art style, it just, I'm not really a fan either, but you get used to it.
Yeah. And
it's just, the characters have a look. They are distinctive. It's just, it takes getting used to.
Now, when after I gave several series a chance one year. Let's see, a lot. Actually, the year I watched this was the year I gave a lot of series a chance. The first one that I gave a chance was, what was that series? The one about the kids in the two kids, the brother and sister. In the very strange place. God, what was it called? Gravity Falls.
Gravity Falls, yeah.
Yes. Because I saw one episode of Gravity Falls, like, God, I hate this. And it was the sock opera one.
Oh, that was a good show.
And then after I gave it a chance, a full chance, and watched several episodes, I got into it and was like, oh, well, it's over. And then I said, you know what? I'll give Steven Universe a chance. And I saw the first episode, and I hated it. And then after a few episodes, I got into it. And then I stopped because the streaming platform I was watching it on ended at a certain time, and I didn't want to pay per episode. So the only thing I had left that I saw streaming was Adventure Time. And... much like that is like, you know what? Those series, I watched those and I liked them, even though I didn't like the way that it was drawn or anything. So why don't I try these? And the first season did not grab me as much as the second season, but it made me go, okay, this is amusing. And that's probably what I could say is the most I felt for the first season of this. It was amusing. It was worth watching a second season of. And I agree with Brittany. There are still little hints of things, even in this season. There are hints of some of the darker.
Well, I mean, from the first scene of the opening, you get a hint that there's a dark and a bit about the world. I don't want to go into it because I don't want to spoil it for people that haven't watched it. But the first scene, you see all the wreckage and destruction.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's that.
That's the
You have
one.
a scene where they're, I think it was the businessman one, where they're swimming and you see like the basically wrecked city under the water.
Yeah.
There's a lot of darkness in here. It's definitely not all sunshine and rainbows, as they say.
So, well, let's just get started. I'm going to run down these episodes because they're pretty quick. We'll start with the very first one, Slumber Party Panic, where Finn and Princess Bubblegum must protect the Candy Kingdom from a horde of candy zombies. That was my first introduction to Finn and Jake and Princess Bubblegum. And Jake, of course, being played by a very, by
Joe DeMeo.
Yeah, Bender fame.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of funny to see like the candy people can't take any like feeling of threatened or upset, or they die, they blow up.
Right.
And the first episode was basically a mix of Return of the Living Dead and Reanimator.
Right.
But what did y'all think of this as an introduction to these characters in the show?
I mean, it's definitely unique for the starting of a show aimed at children.
Mm-hmm.
To start a show off with a spoof of Night of the Living Dead.
Right.
It's like Night of the Living Dead meets Candyland.
Well, there were definitely Reanimator vibes. The person who wrote this definitely had seen a lot of horror films and was doing a lot of little Easter eggs.
Mm-hmm.
But it also shows a lot of the kind of childish, kind of upbeat nature of it because, well, I mean, a lot of the stuff like, having him get in with that Princess Rhinocorn and the, Jake in there, it's like, yeah, get in the closet. That was, what was it, 7 Minutes in Heaven or something like that? To try and avoid breaking the oath.
I mean, it's not really a spoiler. They do a callback episode later to this very episode. So I mean, it is good to see sort of the humor, especially as someone who's rewatching it, that's put into just the concept of the horror of zombies, but candy forms of zombies coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
And it also kind of gave an introduction to like some of the odd rules of the world, like the Royal Promise and the giant like gumball guards.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also gives you an intro right out of the gate that of the character Princess Bubblegum. On the one hand, she seems to be a very cheerful, kind, really cares for her people and all that kind of stuff. She really likes Jake and treats him really well and gives him a lot of support. But she's also she's a huge nerd. She's kind of a mad scientist, and here she's trying to bring the dead back to life. And there are episodes later where you see that she can actually get pretty dark.
She gets dark. I literally just watched a video while I was waiting for us to come together on Princess Bubblegum, and whether or not she's evil.
like when she gets turned green from that.
Well, there's that episode. And there's also the episode that had uncomfortable vibes of the current era, where she preemptively captures the Ice King. There are interesting moments with her.
Oh, yeah, she was ready to torture him.
Yeah. But
I've always thought that out of the characters in this, there'd be two that you would latch on to, Jake. Princess Bubblegum and Marceline.
Marceline's a given. I mean, that's one reason I was disappointed she was only in 2 episodes. But yeah, they are definitely two of the more interesting ones, I'll say, from what I've seen so far. But they're also, like I said, they're two of the more prominently featured. Like I said, I see the comics all the time. I see the images. Someone mentioned cosplay, and I have seen cosplay of these characters. They are definitely two of the more popular characters. So you see them a lot.
There's two reasons for that.
Right.
A, the internet loves waifus.
Yeah.
B, there's a huge LGBTQ presence with these two. So those two things kind of combine to have them plastered all over the place.
Right.
Because there's a lot of, even though I haven't gotten to that part in the story yet, that's been spoiled for me by constant internet memeing and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it. It's up to you, Brandon, if you want to spoil it.
I'll just leave it at what I said.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure that if you've been on the internet at all, it's been spoiled for you.
I have not.
Well, when I was looking for images to post, I found a lot that hint at what you're saying. So,
so
yeah. And yeah. And I will say also, I don't know if it was, I went into this not realizing who the voice cast was. There were people I recognized as we went. I did not recognize Hendon Welch as Bubblegum, but she is one I've heard a lot before.
Yeah, she's more notably also known as the voice for Starfire in the Teen Titans series.
Right. But I was going to say, I definitely recognized John. I definitely recognized John DiMaggio. Not right away. He doesn't sound exactly like Bender, but there are a lot of moments where you can hear Bender, and you're like, this actually adds an element of Jake is an asshole, but he's not as big of an asshole as Bender is.
He's a good friend. He's a much better friend than Bender.
He's a much better friend than Bender is, that's for sure. But even then...
And then you have... Well, I mean, we'll just go through some of the voice actors that are regularly in the staff. Right. Pendleton Ward himself, the creator of the series, does LSP. One of the other creators does BMO and Lady Rainicorn. Ice King's played by Tom Kenny, the voice of SpongeBob.
Right.
So
and
I mean,
a lot of other stuff too.
A lot of stuff, and then when they're not introduced in this season, but next season you're going to be introduced to the Lemongrads, who are played by what's his name from Rick and Morty? I forget his name.
You talk about a
you talk about annoying characters. Wait until the Lemongrads appear.
Voices. Matter of fact, his character's voice is annoying and also iconic. You can hear it definitely.
Right.
It's Justin Roiland? No, that's
not. It is Justin Roiland. Okay. It is Justin Roiland. So yeah, Justin Roiland plays the Lemongrads. But yeah, the LSP.
Yeah, that's an interesting and weird one.
What do y'all think? So I mean, I've heard Jake's thought on Jake. So what about the rest of y'all? What do y'all think of Jake the dog?
Go ahead, Dave. I'll let you speak and I'll speak.
Jake is a rude. He's definitely like you guys said, a good friend. Mm-hmm. Whether or not he always pulls through as a friend and is like a backup character is a little bit questionable, because sometimes he gets caught up in the moment.
Yeah. He's extremely chaotic.
But at the end of the day, it's all about pros.
He's not exactly chaotic dark, but he's definitely chaotic.
Hey, he's technically Finn's brother.
Yeah, technically he is Finn's brother.
Adopted brother, but
adopted. Yeah, they're adopted. Yeah. Finn's adopted.
Finn's adopted.
Jake is natural to his parents.
But we do see
Joshua. You do see Joshua.
Origin.
So
Well, you see Joshua, his father. Joshua will play a larger role throughout. I don't remember if the mom does. But I mean, you'll see Joshua is just Jake with a freaking fedora and a different voice.
yeah, you see more of them as they're growing up. And
But Jake, I mean, I'm going to just use what they actually are. Finn is more your adventurous. You know, he's supposed to be, I believe, 10 to 12 year old that's starting
12.
to get interested in the girls and loves the thrill of adventure, but sometimes gets a little overzealous and caught up in things. While Jake tends to be a bit more lazy, but more of a ladies' man, which is why he has his relationship with Lady Rainicorn, which will later develop more as we go. But yeah, I mean, they're meant to be sort of the same type of boyish characteristics you see in normal life, but you know how you'd have a little bit difference with one being a little bit more, you know, lazy and one being a lot more adventurous and eager to seize the day sort of concept.
Well, not just that, like, I think at one point someone referred to Finn, at least at one point, I think I heard someone refer to Finn as a paladin, and in a lot of ways he is a paladin type.
Yeah.
He is like rigidly for good and justice.
That will change over the seasons, I assure you.
But it's a big thing in season 1, and it is annoying.
But yeah, no, early Finn is that way until one particular episode.
His innocence was stolen from him by the Thief Kingdom.
Yes, exactly. Yes, actually, it was the first season. The Theft Kingdom is where his sort of the polish is off from that point on. So he does get a little bit more issues, and it deals with life issues throughout the whole series. Yeah. So I mean, you'll see events with Finn, you know, with dating. You'll see events with Finn, you know, making the wrong choice at times, or you know, Finn is. I mean, he's the human. He's the one human in the series,
and he's the main character. So
yeah,
I mean, there's no doubt he's the main character. He's the one constant in all the episodes. Jake is the second most constant, but Finn is always dead center. And from what I've read, he mentions that he's 12 at the beginning, and they end up, according to what I've been told, at the end of the series, he's 17. So he ages. He goes
technically this series he's 17.
Yes.
The following series, you get them all the way up to adulthood.
You mean like Cake and what's the name?
No, not Fiona and Cake. Fiona and Cake is a spin off from an alternate dimension. We'll get to it eventually. With eventually you do have adult Jake, I think, in the later episodes of the newer stuff that has been put on, I think, strictly just Max.
Yeah.
But you get hints of it throughout the series. There'll be references. I think Pendleton Ward, who created the series, had in mind what he was going to see with Jake in the future, or Finn in the future, and how he looks. And Jake's always the same. He might get a few wrinkles here and there, but that's about all that Jake develops as.
Well, I read that they aged Finn up specifically so that the same voice actor could just kind of stick with it.
They did have to change the voice actors at one point. Because he got too old to keep playing the voice of Jake, and I believe it was his brother took over.
Well, IMDb has him as Jeremy Shada as 262 episodes. I think they said his brother had done the pilot and he took over.
Let me explain the pilot. So the pilot is not, we did not see the pilot at all in the show. The pilot was originally pitched to Nickelodeon.
Right.
And it was pitched, I think, something like 9 times. It aired once on sort of like a variety cartoon show, and Nickelodeon just did not pull the trigger on this series. They brought it over to Cartoon Network. I think Cartoon Network struggled a little while. Pendleton went through this for, I think, like 5 years trying to get this series off the ground. So this actually would have come out around the same time as Powerpuff Girls, as we were talking, probably was ending. So that's one of the unique things here is you see this, and it's not the only unique thing to come out of these kind of concepts. I mean, Family Guy originated as a cartoon on Cartoon Network.
And let's not forget Frederator and the influence that had on the industry.
Yeah. I mean, this established Frederator as a company with this series, and they've gone on to create a few other series in the vein of Pendleton Ward. I don't know if he has how much influence he has in those, but I mean, Frederator is now a pretty big but mostly independent animation studio.
I mean, it was one of the things. I mean, it was one of those establishing things that has led us to a lot of these indie animation things, which is kind of good because HBO likes to kill off popular animation. So hey, you know, let's.
I am still amazed they're holding on to Adventure Time as long as they're having it. I mean, they've gotten rid of almost all their animation on their show except for Adventure Time and Steven Universe
And Velma
and Teen Titans. They'll keep Teen Titans Go on there for some reason for all the time.
Hey, Teen Titans Go is probably one of the most popular shows they have. I mean, I don't understand it, but it's not for me. It's for a very young audience. So, you know. Well, but yes, so Finn's our main character. And we'll go ahead and move on to the next one, which introduced our next character, Lumpy Space Princess.
Oh my God!
Which is in a long line of characters that annoy me. And we find out that Lumpy Space Princess apparently goes by werewolf rules, that anybody that she bites or that lumpy person bites becomes lumpy themselves, which also means they become kind of bitchy.
For reasons.
Now, there's a lot of stuff in here that just... I do like how it just nonchalantly treats the rules of the world like they don't make sense to us, but they present them as if, well, yeah, that's just how it is. I actually like how they do that, but because she accidentally bit Jake, they had to go to the Lumpy World in order to try and cure him. Did you all have any thoughts on Lumpy Space Princess in this episode?
I'll let you guys I'll talk about her and I'll come last with it.
She's interesting.
She didn't annoy me as much as I thought she would. I kind of enjoyed this episode because it was kind of an origin story to her. And I guess she wasn't as annoying to me because then it's like after this episode, it's like she kind of went to the background, you know.
Oh
yeah. So
she'll be more prominent.
If she'd
in the
have been
future.
in more episodes than that and whatnot, she might have annoyed me a little bit more.
After this, Lumpy Space Princess is the only character shown in any of the episodes from here on out.
Well, in her opinion, yes, she would be. I mean, she is the pinnacle spoiled brat character, and that's what she's meant to play. She will get a little bit better, but she's always that spoiled brat. I mean, Brandon, of course, asked for what is the origin of my comic, Magical Princess War, and I have LSP along with the group because you want that sarcastic nature, the spoiled sort of nature, just to pull off on humor. But yeah, I get why people don't like her, but at the same time, she's got that sarcastic nature that just helps and helps her enjoy. And she's far better, in my opinion, than another character will come across.
And appearing and apparently being lumpy also makes you a bit more selfish and self-centered. So,
right.
So it's against her nature not to be.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting how Finn was starting to become a lumpy thing too throughout the episode too.
Well, Jake was bitten originally, but yeah, I mean, Finn turned lumpy in the end to try and
That's right.
save Jake because he had to be able to fly in order to get where he needed to go, and it was an interesting episode. It kind of I almost look at this as a first season as trying to give you an introduction to the world itself, which it does a lot of jumping around, but I think the jumping around was more to introduce you to all the characters and give you an idea as to what the hell. Get off the wall.
What?
The cat is literally climbing up the wall.
Which
Okay.
one?
Blanche.
Ah, okay.
But well, let's move on then to a favorite, one that I actually was annoyed with at first, but I came to like the character as time went on, and that is our introduction to the Ice King, and of course showing that Princess Bubblegum is probably one of the closest to humanoid of the princesses out there, as he has kidnapped all these princesses to be his bride, and Jake and Finn have to save him.
Including the lumpy princess.
Yep.
Well, no, she put herself in there.
But he's a pretty powerful character. I mean, played by the same person who does SpongeBob, but it also shows, I mean, the depth this guy's voice acting is at. You can kind of tell who it is, but he doesn't. Ice King is not SpongeBob. And,
No, he's not.
and kind of the depth that they go to the character later in the series, you can tell that this was the right voice actor for the role. I've got to give him that. He had amazing depth, or has. I guess he's still alive, and not killing him off yet, I guess. But
Hopefully not. I mean, the creator of SpongeBob's dead, but the SpongeBob's voice himself is not. But Tom Kenny is definitely a golden voice along with John DiMaggio.
Yes.
Out there for voice acting talents in America. So
yeah.
So what do y'all think of the Ice King character?
He's interesting. He's got some very unfortunate hobbies. And he really comes across as pretty pathetic at times. But on the other hand, it's kind of funny to have such a powerful character who's so pathetic and tripped up over his own hang-ups, I guess you could say.
Our main villain to start off with is kind of lame, but that's all right. They get less lame as they go.
Yeah.
Dave, what's your opinion on him?
Well, the Ice King, he's an interesting facet because you get to see several episodes in the first season. I would have to say like around 3, where you get to see him in his element. I mean, there's this one, and then there's of course the one where his heart decided to run rampant. And
we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But we got to talk about one of Brittany's favorite episodes first.
And then there's, of course, the one where he's kidnapped, where he's basically brainwashed a princess into marrying him, and some interesting marriage things that are going on in that episode. But
they have a lot of princesses.
When we initially first see him, I mean, he's kidnapping all these princesses, so of course he's the bad guy at this moment. He's an interesting character, to say the least. I mean, it's not that they're trying to make you fall in love with him at any given point in time, but I think it's interesting how many princesses he's captured. So
I'm gonna hold my tongue on too much since I know further about Ice King.
Yeah.
But I will say, just going by season 1, Ice King, he's amusing as a villain. He is the cartoon villain.
yes,
In season 1. But I mean, knowing him past, and I will say season 4, you have a whole different feeling coming and rewatching it. For
I get to see his
Ice
origin.
King. Yeah,
I would have to say the next villain in season 1 would be that vampire chick.
Wesley.
Well, there's a few
Yeah.
villains, but some
There are a few villains, but Brandon and I mean, he doesn't appear in this season, but there is an overarching villain. They start the works of the overarching villain in this season.
There's some actual pretty nasty bad guys in this series, but it's
yeah.
But yeah, Ice King is the joke bad guy.
He's sort of like and there are different schools of thought about this. There are people who would definitely disagree with this characterization, but my understanding is for example, in Batman's Rogue Gallery, frequently people will say the Riddler is the joke villain. And there are times where he's been able to really be the villain.
I don't know.
I'd say Calendar Man is the joke villain.
Well,
in a sense,
a good example.
The Ice King reminds me of that one character in Santa Claus is Coming to Town, where he's
the Ice Wizard.
Yeah, the Ice Wizard. Yes.
Yeah,
he might have been
Kind of
modeled.
reminds me of him just a little bit.
Okay, the example of where I was going with that. There are a lot of examples, but one that really jumps to the fore is it's not the best written story by any means, but it's actually kind of a weakly written story, but it had its moments. But the whole Nightfall storyline, most of the villains were very definite threats. They were actually keeping Batman and Robin busy and wearing them down. The Joker, not the Joker. The Joker was one of the legit threats. The Riddler was a joke. He had a broken arm. He showed up and tried to tell riddles and was immediately arrested. And it's like, so this is sort of reminds me of that kind of villain because he just keeps showing up and is not that effective and whatever, but he has his moments, But one thing this episode does establish, and you guys who've seen the show, you can tell me if I'm just totally misreading the whole thing. But this series does seem to have a weird, it's almost like with Ranma and the obsession with coming up with a new martial art for everything. This series seems to have a princess for everything.
I like that. Princess.
I mean, it's not a spoiler. There are a lot of princesses in this series, and some of them shine that you've already met. So, of this season, I can say ones that I know that reoccur. Of course, Lumpy Space Princess, Princess Bubblegum,
Right.
Hot Dog Princess, Slime Princess.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's one more, but it's like they're so obscure, but they'll keep occurring, and sometimes they'll have their own story. But there's even more princesses along the line. They'll be introduced and play bigger roles.
One of the other recurring ones doesn't even debut yet.
No, she doesn't even debut until 3rd season, I think.
But I guess we'll move on to Brittany's favorite character, Tree Trunks.
If you have a most hated character, this is the most hated character.
Tree Trunks is annoying.
Oh, yeah.
Essentially, in this episode, Finn and Jake are helping Tree Trunks, who is this little elephant, and she bakes apple pies, and she's always wanted to get this crystal gem apple and take a bite out of it. So they say, you know what? We're going to go on an adventure together in the dark woods and get it done. She kind of does annoying stuff, which causes them to yell at her, which she gets upset.
This is a character who not only has no survival instinct, she seems to have a negative survival instinct.
She unfortunately is a reoccurring character, so even though she disappears and dies in this season, I will spoil she comes back immediately in the next season.
Well, she didn't die in this one. She just disappeared.
But I wish she freaking died. I really do. She's a freaking, as noted by a lot of people who have watched this series, as a pedophiliac elephant, because she's always getting all hot and bothered about Finn. And wants to have Finn with her. And it's the more you get in, I don't think there's ever a redeeming quality for Tree Trunks in this series. I really don't.
It's like Snuffleupagus with a crush.
Snuffleupagus, if Snuffleupagus is the old man from Family Guy. So
yeah. Even sounds a little bit like him.
She does. No, I had not made that connection, but now I can't unhear it.
And, well, I mean, it's true. She is that way. She absolutely is that way.
Yes.
She does have redemption,
So
but her redemption is still very creepy and disturbing.
So she does play an important part later in the series.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Any other words on Tree Trunks and how much y'all love her as a character?
Yeah, I can just totally forget her, that she exists. Yeah. She is an annoying character.
But again, this season is a good one for setup stuff, because a lot of the episodes, they seem kind of disjointed, like introduction. But a lot of this stuff is followed up on later. And I'm saying that because the next one is also very important, which is the Enchiridion, which is where Jake wants to get a hold of this magical book to prove that he is worthy of being a righteous hero, because it's a magical tome of heroes, and he has to go through all of these particular tests, including stealing taking $1 from a giant. It was it's interesting it was an interesting particular episode, because it was important plot wise, but which you wouldn't think about, because they don't address it too much in this season, other than that, and I think one other episode. But still, it's kind of a fun one with him doing a quest. You really don't see Finn with much of a sword. He likes swords, but he usually just uses this rusted sword he has.
Yeah.
But what do y'all think of the Enchiridion and the tests?
That was interesting. I'm trying to remember, because I remember that there was a character, the Manish Man was Fred Tedesiore, another very well-known vocal actor who apparently is his only appearance on the series, but that was a interesting.
It had some funny moments. I mean,
it did, yeah.
I like the whole thing where they rescue the fairies. The fairies start just killing old women, and Jake's like, no, y'all going right back and put them right back in the fire. But also where like the wise old man shows up, but he's wearing a devil costume as his pajamas, and attacks him thinking he's like a demon.
Oh yeah. The what did they call that guy? That was the he was like the key the keeper, I think was what they called him. Like just yeah.
There were some funny jokes in that one, actually. I did like that. I mean, like, that was my only $1. But in all fairness, he did eat Jake, so But what about the rest of y'all? What do y'all think of the Enchiridion story?
I thought it was a better story than the one before it.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, I feel like the writing gets better as the season gets going. I mean, there are some that are questionable, but you know, in all fair and honesty, I don't think they did too badly for their first season. So,
I'm trying not to spoil anything.
There's a lot of spoilers.
I do like the adventure, and knowing what the Incaridian is. It's kind of amusing of who's guarding the Incaridian in the end, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense because who else would go after the book this way? It's nice to see it. And yeah, I know it pays off next season.
There's a lot of this that starts paying off even as quickly as next season. But it feels like the season is haphazard, but it's only because they're trying to introduce so many characters.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that when I watched it at first. I just thought it was just haphazard because, well, that must be how this show is. I was like, no. But speaking of haphazard, the next episode's probably one of the few potential throwaway episodes, which is the Jiggler, where they find this kind of baby critter. The only thing that I think carries on from this is the fact that that Finn swallowed an auto-tuner.
Yeah, that was an okay episode. I was not blown away by it.
They did a lot of dancing that made no sense, and I don't know. It kind of reminded me of like the first episode of Star Trek Next Generation, where they didn't even realize that they were in the animal or creature that they were at far point, you know. But
first episode,
as far as the Jiggler, well, they didn't realize what the fuck it was. As far as they could tell, it was a squeezy toy, so or a robot of some sort. Kind of reminded me of one of the Star Wars robots at first.
They could party though.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it for the world building. That's what I like it for. I mean, it is a throwaway episode for the most part, but it does kind of help bring the strangeness of this world a bit more developed, and it's one of those where you're going to see more episodes throughout the series. May not pay off, but it just keeps getting stranger and stranger, and so you get stuff like this.
Well,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one of the things that it does for world building is it helps show how incredibly immature and at times self-centered both Jake and Finn can be.
Well, they are kids.
But they are absolutely, what they do to this poor creature is horrifying.
I'm gonna correct you, Brandon. Finn is a kid. Jake is an adult.
Well, in dog years, yes.
Yes.
Finn is a kid, but even if he's 12, when I was 12, I probably did some unfortunate. Some critters died in my care, yes, but the sheer abuse and neglect on display here is very, very bad, even by a 12-year-old standard.
Yeah, but you also got to think, Jacob. Finn is the only human. He don't even know his parents.
Right.
So I mean, they only learned from what Jake's family would have taught him, which is, you look at a dog. Yeah, a dog will care about some things, but sometimes a dog will also know that there's sometimes a point of no saving that one.
Well, yeah.
They're very carefree.
Yeah. No, my point is that this episode does help show the limitations on both of these characters.
Yeah.
No,
And I mean,
once they-
that is important to know. There are limitations, and they continuously
Right.
show limitations between these two characters.
Yeah.
and they do, and once they understand what's going on, they do everything they can to save the little thing. They're just careless.
And
But-
some of the stuff makes no freaking
The way I feel about Adventure Time and its world is like that moment where the trolley in Mr. Rogers' neighborhood is going to the neighborhood, and once it goes to like where King Friday is and all that jazz, that is the imagination that we're in. So I feel kind of like the world around is like Finn's imagination as a child, as he's growing up, and it's like his big ass playtime.
Which is kind of an ironic reading given one of the later episodes.
Time.
I mean, I'd like to think that, but at the same times, I've seen further episodes, and we see Finn's imagination.
Oh Lord,
Yeah.
it is kind of, that episode is fun. But we'll get to it definitely.
Yeah.
So speaking of an episode where the heart can grow fonder for it, we've got Ricardo the Heart Guy, which George Takei has a wonderful
Yes.
guest appearance for that.
And that was one that I almost recognized, but I didn't confirm it until I looked it up. But he does have a distinctive voice, though. So it's like,
You
was
couldn't
fun.
figure that out to
I'm
be
gonna-
George Takei from the beginning. I'm like, I don't watch much of George Takei, but I know his voice by heart.
let's say I thought it was him, but I didn't know for sure until I looked it up. Yeah. But that character, though, that was a creepy ass character in some ways.
I'm gonna have to say that this was actually my favorite episode of the season. So
Well,
That because you enjoy Star Trek?
maybe, but I still enjoyed the heart out of body experience
well,
for some
Yeah.
reason.
I'll just do. I'll run the quick summary. What happens is Ricardo is this heart that comes out, and he's all this charming and fun, and Finn realizes that he's a bit jealous of that kind of relationship that Ricardo is having with Princess Bubblegum, and the whole of it ends up well. As they go forward, they realize that Ricardo is not what he seems, and that Finn is kind of right to have had some doubts about him.
Well, they see a lot of evidence that this guy, and not just the fact that he's creepy as hell. They see him like doing stuff that looks suspect, and one of the things they see is him talking with the Ice King. And later we see the Ice King, who looks like he's on death's door, like he looks bad. And ultimately, we find out where Ricardo came from. And that was actually kind of interesting.
I will say, because I've already gone into season 2 with a rewatch. I do feel this episode pales to an episode that's like this one in season 2. That same kind of plot. It involves the Ice King with princesses. They at that point they're gonna fool Finn and Jake too, but it's just that kind of weird sort of swooning women. It's nice to get the feeling that it's okay that you see through Ricardo being the heart of the Ice King sort of play out. So keep this episode in mind when you get to season 2. I think it's like episode 4 of season 2. You'll see it.
I didn't say that there wouldn't be any other episodes that would probably outsway me on
Yeah.
anything.
Oh, we'll find out.
Yep.
Wait, any other thoughts on this one before we go on to business time?
Jeez.
Oh, jeez.
Business Time actually is one of the first ones that comes close to showing humans, even though they're not really. They're kind of almost undead humans because they got frozen,
Right.
and
It's
all they
like
know
the
is
Encino
business.
Man of businessmen.
So they end up working with Finn and Jake, but they end up coming to some very interesting conclusions about how to protect everybody, which ends up with Finn and Jake having to fire them.
Well, essentially, they're all about efficiency because they're businessmen. That's what they do. Yeah, and they're so efficient that Finn and Jake have nothing really to do.
I love how they just get fat and lazy and just eating ice cream.
Right.
Everything. And that part at the end where, of course, Jake just pops back in and Finn's like, "Yep, I'm gonna miss this." And I was like, "Yeah, I wish it worked that way too."
Yeah, no, it's a great episode. I do like the concept of having the problem being corporate drones, essentially, because they while they're businessmen and they eventually start to come up with their own ideas based off of what they're told to do, and it's gives me that whole concept of letting corporation just overrun itself without control.
Right.
And it's just I enjoy it in that concept, and then to see Finn and Jake just become lazy people through that, and like Brendan said, the end result with Finn having to now realize that you can't lose weight that fast, unlike if you're not Jake.
And you do get to see a giant robot.
Yeah.
True.
And not the last time you see giant robots in the sea.
Right.
Anything else on the businessmen?
No.
There's not really much to say. Yeah. Then there's my two favorite people. The Princess Rainicorn, she's speaking Korean, right?
Yes. The person who was involved was a storyboard artist, Korean American, and she speaks Korean throughout the episode. She also, like I said, voices BMO, their housemate, who is the little Game Boy robot VCR thing. Because it's really weird to associate BMO, but we get some backstory eventually about BMO. But it's still a question was like, what is it?
Actually, BMO is one of those characters that BMO is not a big part at the first season. But BMO is like one of my favorite characters as we go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, BMO is definitely... I mean, if Finn is the human child representation of like a preteen, BMO's the younger child, but sometimes also the responsible adult.
But this one, of course, Jake manages to get find a translator for Princess Rainicorn so that Finn can understand what she's saying, because he wants them to get along better so that they can all hang out together. But of course, it turns out that then they end up trying to hang out together a lot to get to know each other, and then Jake gets jealous of it, and eventually things go back to the way they were.
Well, we also got to note that translator had 3 very odd settings. And the only one that was really intelligible was Old Man. So
that was hilarious.
That was kind of funny.
So I think I know why I put that, why I buried that. But we didn't talk much about Princess Rainicorn. And she does play a somewhat moderate part throughout the series. What do y'all think about Princess Rainicorn, Jake's girlfriend?
She's kind of fun. I feel like we don't get a lot of her, except in this episode. We don't get a lot of her development in this season. The joke of her always speaking in a different language and only Jake understands. Well, I guess Jake, and it sounds like Bubblegum, understands her too. I find that kind of amusing, and the joke of her talking like an old man was funny.
I mean, it is established later that the Rainicorns all speak Korean. That's their language. Now at times I believe they call it Rainicorn, but at times also Jake will refer to it as Korean.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it is Korean, not just in reality, but in that world, it's Korean as well. So, yeah.
Good deal.
Well, I guess that's it for that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go in too much with Rainicorn. I mean, she's the loving girlfriend. At least in the early parts, she's the loving girlfriend. I won't go into spoilers from there.
She does seem to get along better with Finn than one might have expected.
When Finn can understand her, yes.
Yes.
So the next episode, Memories of Boom Boom Mountain, does have some character development for Finn, because Finn wants to help everyone. He realizes there that you can't necessarily help everyone.
Yeah.
Even though he ends up doing so in the end. But
well, this is also the one where we learn how he ended up with Jake. And
yeah.
And it's a very
and you meet Joshua, who I have to state again, Joshua is an important character.
Yeah.
In the series. So.
Oh yeah, that's the like barbarian, right?
No, Joshua is Jake's dad.
Oh yeah, sorry. Was it there that they also, because I feel like
no, they talk about I think they do talk a little bit about the barbarian who's at the end of the series, Billy.
Because I feel like Billy,
but they don't. He's not there. Billy's retired at this point.
Billy was saying you need to resolve stuff without violence, but I can't remember whether it was. It must have been
that was a later episode.
Yeah,
that was Billy later episodes.
That was the second
Billy's like,
yeah.
So Wizard was next. Which again is another weird episode where like 3 magic powers here, which of course shows how gullible they are. I was like, okay, cool, let's take the 3 magic powers.
Right.
I just like how they achieved the magic powers, and it's some of the dumbest things.
Right.
This bro.
And let's see here. Was the what was that character's name?
The frog wizard?
Yeah.
I honestly don't remember his name.
I don't think he ever makes another.
No, he has. He has a name, and he does reoccur a little bit.
Was this the one where he had to earn the star?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where he has to earn the star.
That was.
So I do know he's going to reappear when we get to Wizard City, but that's seasons afterwards. That's later seasons.
Okay.
It is kind of sad that they got all those powers and they ended up losing them afterwards because they were attached to the rope. But
yeah.
But still, I mean, it was kind of cool that they used Finn did. Jake just took a nap, but Finn figured out the way to do it. But I do like how it also kind of teaches that moral of, don't get too greedy because things might happen. I mean, Jake was like, you know what, I'm good with what I got right here.
Was he the Grand Master Wizard?
No, he was the. I mean, the tadpoles were the Grand Master Wizard in him, and they were sort of like a collective mind. But you'll see as the series goes on, there's a lot of wizards. Just as many as there are princesses, there's a lot of wizards and different types of wizards. Ice King is technically a member of the Wizards. So is Magic Man. And did we meet Daniel this season? I don't remember.
Meet who?
Abracadaniel.
I don't think so. No.
That must be second season. Couldn't remember when he appears, but I know he's a regular appearing wizard. So
yeah. Well, we do get to see one of the more powerful characters
Is Princess
next
Bubblegum?
episode.
Kind
Which
Princess Princess Bubblegum specifically is a scientist. If you
Yes.
ask her if she's a wizard, she is a scientist. She doesn't believe in wizards.
But Evicted introduces Marceline, who is a vampire, who's like, oh, looks like y'all took care of my house, and kicks Jake and Finn out.
Yeah.
She is a vampire that feeds off of the color red, and is also a musician with a guitar. Now, and Jake, who is afraid.
I'm going to correct you. It's not a guitar, it's a bass.
And Jake is afraid of vampires, and this is established very well in this. And continues. Marceline, for me, is a character that I did not like at first, in first introduction.
I'm not surprised.
Because she was basically a bully, and I don't like bully characters.
Yeah.
She grew on me as the series progressed. But that first...
I mean, like I said, first episode, second season, you'll warm
well,
up.
I mean, I've seen enough to say, yeah, that she grows on me. But, yeah, the first couple episodes that she's in this...
Yeah,
no,
she literally kicks them out in the rain. Yeah. And then they find a home, and then she shows up, and she's like, oh, this is my spot too. Thanks for fixing it up. And it's like, but you can have the house back. She did give them the house back, but it was, yeah.
Yeah.
I had mixed feelings about her introduction too. I was like, but, you know, I have mixed feelings about Jake and Finn, so her picking on them didn't bother me as much as it might have.
Yeah, she didn't bother me that much. I thought she was an interesting character.
And I like that whole thing about going for the color red. It reminds me of Nyampire, and we still need a release of Nyampire, damn it.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We need a proper release of Nunpire around here. So yeah, I mean, I love the concept of red, of her sucking red, and the fact that it comes so often played, but you always forget because she's always referred to as vampire in the series. You'll see episodes later. It's like, oh wait, she's a vampire. She wants to drink blood. It's like, no, I just need the color red.
I mean, yeah, the characters forget pretty often too.
Right. Yeah. Well, and we saw that in her second intro too. But yeah, this one's it pretty well establishes that, you know, I guess the main things like that she's a vampire, she's a musician, she's a prankster, she's, you know, yeah.
She's a little self-centered, but you get to see that she takes a shining to Jake a little bit. Not Jake, sorry, to Finn a little bit at the end of that first episode. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it goes as it goes.
Right.
And then, of course, anybody else on Marceline?
Marceline is the vampire queen.
But so we go to the City of Thieves, which, of course, is where Finn's innocence was taken from him. Because if you enter the city, you will become a thief. A thief!
He gets tricked into there by this little girl who seems so innocent, and it's obvious that it's a setup, but not obvious to Finn.
I thought this one was fun.
Yeah.
I love how Jake does not even he just starts falling for temptation with those boots. He ends up wearing them.
Right.
I love it's yeah. It goes into the world building. I love that. And I also love it kind of corrupts Jake a little bit. Like I said, he does change over the future after this episode. He's no longer that all pure character.
Jake too, but yeah. But
Jake's
already
been corrupt.
Well, Jake gets corrupted quite easily throughout the show.
See, this is one of the ones that had me thinking a lot of the fact that he also plays Bender, because it's like Bender would have taken over and to be the despotic ruler of this place in 5 minutes.
Although I do find it ironic. There's a later episode in one of the seasons where it's kind of reversed, where Finn is obsessed and Jake is the more reasonable voice.
I do like that basically Jake is the thieving asshole in 2 episodes of this back-to-back.
Pretty much, yeah. Because the next episode is he's a thieving asshole in that one too. So yeah, I do enjoy it. It plays on that sort of D&D logic that you find ways to trick your party members, and you can definitely see Finn as the paladin going in there and being unresponsible and then being tricked into stealing and sort of tarnishing his name and nature.
Yeah, he was told that the king, who turns out is like a corpse, skeleton rather, had stolen something from this little child, and he was retrieving it for the child, and in doing so, he became a thief. And
he stole her basket.
Yeah. Which it was pretty clear that this flower basket was probably not going to be in this treasure chest, but
Well, he got, Finn got revenge, but he did lose a part of himself that he won't get back. But his carefree nature allows him to kind of move on.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when he followed up with the Witch's Garden, where Jake gets in trouble for basically the garden that's locked, so automatically he just walks over the gate into the garden and then eats the donut off of the donut trees.
What? I didn't steal a donut.
And of course, the witch living there doesn't like it, so she basically gets rid of his powers, which apparently makes him partially human in his underwear. A very out of shape human.
I mean, let's talk about the big end in this series. And I'm not talking the big end of the episode. I'm talking about and this will be constant throughout the show, the continuous showing of Jake's butt.
Well, I mean, they even do that, like, even Princess Bubblegum gets into the whole thing of where she's trying to, she turns upside down to, like, have Jake have a Finn. Like, yes, you can give me a kiss. Just like, am I doing it right, Jake?
I mean, it's humorous. I also love the concept that they believe Jake got his powers by splashing in a mud puddle.
Yeah.
Which ironically could be explained in this world if you know further, but
no, with this world, you never anything that you say like that, it could very well be true because the rules don't really equate to what we think of as the rules.
Right.
I mean, I do think that is interesting. I mean, one thing that looks like it's going to be fun for a game is that a GM would have a lot more power in this world than it would be in a regular world because you can just make up shit on the fly.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, well, I mean, I remember that there was a Slayers game where I forced you all to sing because singing was the only way you could communicate.
Yeah.
And you all were in the front room of Jack's at the time. I remember that.
That was so freaking embarrassing.
Yeah.
But those are the kind of rules that are almost similar in Adventure Time in a way. There's a lot of that silliness in both of those series.
Yeah. I mean, other than this is a definitely heavy moral episode, and gives a little bit of a attempted backstory for Jake. It's at the same time,
Jake didn't learn much out at the end of it because he took her donuts.
At the same time, the moral's thrown out by the end, and it's just repeated again, and it's just silliness. So there's not really much to talk about with this episode.
It was fun.
Other than just being fun.
It was entertaining to watch Jake basically. I think I'll go just take a nap right here. as being even lazier than his normal self because he didn't have magical powers and how much he relied on them to get around.
Yeah.
And in a way, it actually shows how much better shape Finn is than Jake, really, because Jake's only in shape because of his magical powers.
Yeah.
So then we go into What is Life, where, of course, Finn is pranked by Jake, who I believe hits him with a bucket of butter.
I know, a garbage bag full of butter.
A garbage bag full of butter, which,
Yeah.
I remember that vaguely.
Which I've got to say, I am very puzzled at how that makes a great prank. I'm very puzzled at that. But
because it's stupid and dumb, Jacob.
Apparently, Finn thinks it's the ultimate in pranks, and I could never beat that.
Unlimited pies.
Unlimited pies to the face is his answer.
Yes.
So he creates a robot to throw pies continually at Jake.
It is interesting that the pie throwing robot's not powerful enough, so they have to steal some of the Ice King's power,
right?
In order to which is weird because the Ice King also has some lightning bolts that he uses to help power his kingdom.
Yeah,
and so they have to steal one of those in order to give the robot more.
And the robot's Nepter. That's his name. It's never-ending pie throwing robot.
Yeah.
But Nepter for short. He does reappear in the series. But I don't think it's that often. But you do get a few nods to him with both Ice King and Finn recognized as his fathers. So
I do find it interesting that there's a moral dilemma because when he absorbs the Ice King power, of course, he then gains some of the Ice King interests, like in princesses and stuff. But he chooses pranks over the Ice King at the end.
He also initially starts throwing poison pies because, well, as you would if you were evil.
Yeah. But he did manage to Jake got pranked by the pie throwing robot at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So what did y'all think of Nectar in this whole episode?
Nectar was interesting.
Yeah.
I love the concept of having a child be between the main hero and the main villain. So you have that sort of weird scenario where they're like, "Oh crap!" I mean, we both have to.
He was
it's
like
both
an
our
erotic
faults.
version. He was an erotic version of Wally.
Pretty much. Yes. I also like that they put the face on the side, and the hand could not technically ever actually reach the inside of Nepter, but it somehow through the pies.
It was a very poor design, really.
Yes.
Well, somehow magic made it possible. We also introduce that Finn does have a fear of the ocean.
Yes.
In Ocean of Fear, which also does show some world background because you notice under the water when they go under the ocean that it is in a ruined city, which kind of gives you more of a hint that maybe this place is more of a post-apocalypse than it is a regular fantasy world.
And the way that Jake goes about trying to solve Finn's fear kind of reminded me of that great episode or a couple of episodes. I can't remember. I think it was an episode in Mesa no Koku where the neighbors were trying to help Mitaka with his fear. Help in quotes. There are ways you can do it that are bad and ways you can do it that are good. And ultimately, Jake's assistance does help, but
we also get a notable voice actor and notable actor with Mark Hamill in this one.
Yep.
So Mark Hamill is the voice of Fear.
Yes. which is appropriate.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what's kind of weird is that version of Fear kind of reminds me of something later in another animated series. The God, what was that one? The series about all the kids going through puberty. What was that damn show called? On Netflix.
Stranger Things.
No.
Uh,
You said
Big Mouth.
Big Mouth, yeah, that one. For the shame monster. That's what it reminded me of. But still, I mean, it is interesting, the idea of like, I'll just have your bed in the middle of the ocean. That'll do it.
Yeah.
He keeps beating the crap out of Jake as he's trying to get away.
yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we'll keep going.
Yep.
All right. Wedding bells thaw, which let's see here.
Probably the Ice King at his worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was when that was the one that I believe Dave was hinting at, that you had the princess that was kind of mind controlled by the Ice King.
Oh yeah.
Marrying him, and they were actually tricked. Finn and Jake were tricked into giving him a bachelor party.
Right.
And one of the wedding nuptials was she had to touch his beard.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I will spoil that. I mean, the Ice King has a lot of power in his beard.
He does.
We'll
find out again in a later episode.
He flies with his beard.
Yeah, we've seen that. Yeah, it's kind of funny actually. But yeah, no, and actually, this was an episode. Yes, we do see a very, very dark side of the Ice King here, but we also see like his goofy, kind of pathetic side too, where like he really, even though he and Finn are like arch nemesis in this season, there's several points where there's another episode later where he declares them friends, and it's like it's weird,
I mean, Ice King, he does have Gunther and the other penguins around, and keep an eye on Gunther for you guys that are watching that haven't seen much.
He's got a childlike innocence to him.
Yeah,
it's just kind of weirdly corrupted.
But I mean, Ice King's also. I mean, he it's meant to show how lonely and depressed he is, because that's his concept. He's most. You'll see more of it as the series unfolds with Ice King. That depression and loneliness are a big part of his character. And even though Gunther's there, and Gunther, I don't want to spoil anything about Gunther because we don't get much of Gunther at this point.
Oh no, not until much later.
But I mean, even still, there's a lot of hinting from season 2. It's just this whole environment of he's isolation, and you get a little bit of each sort of personality here. With innovation is Princess Bubblegum, Finn is a carefree, as well as Jake in a little bit sense, but one's more responsibility and one's more just general take life as it is.
Dharma Beach Bum.
And Marceline is more of that chill vibe, that hang around, and like I said, Lumpy Space Princess being her spoiled brat nature. That's what our main characters of this series are to represent. And as the story will unfold, you'll see more and more of these characters build, and their lives build together, their past build together. But you knowing those core parts is important for the series.
So anything else on? Well, like I say, it's an interesting episode because it shows both sides of the Ice King. It reminds me of the Kotaro Umbra thing And Handmaid May is like, I am your best friend and greatest enemy.
Yes.
So the next one, Dungeon, is a very D&D style episode
Yeah.
where basically Finn and Jake decide to ignore Princess Bubblegum's warning to go find the crystal eye in the dungeon.
Well, she has them to put up all these keep
Warning
out
signs.
warning, all these signs, and naturally they decide to ignore the signs themselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we also see this more than once. She will give them tasks without giving them any context or explanation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And you should know, I guess, that Finn will need that context and explanation.
Again, there's a belief that maybe Princess Bubblegum is not in the good right nature.
Oh yeah,
She may be evil in a sense. But I mean it's the clear evidence that Pendleton Ward had D&D inspire a lot of the stories that go throughout the series, and you'll see a lot more dungeon references, a lot more adventure references that are very D&D-esque as the story goes.
And the crystal eye is, of course, an evil artifact that's sealing even more evil. And of course, as you said, Princess Bubblegum explains none of this. And probably even, and there are people who would say, well, she probably expected them to go on anyway. Just let's see what would happen.
Yeah. And she does conveniently show up right when they need her most. It's like,
she does that. She does do that throughout the series.
but like, it's interesting because Jake and Finn have a little bit of a spat where Finn declares that he doesn't need Jake and he can do, and so they both end up, it turns out, finding that they really needed each other in this dungeon, because somehow Jake has all the stuff Finn could have handled and Finn has all the stuff Jake could have handled.
Yeah.
I feel that's fully intentional about the dungeon. It's meant to kind of split you apart and then make you forced to be like, oh, I couldn't handle this, but I know my friend who came in with me could.
Right.
It's of that twisted mindset. Is the dungeon actually meant to put them together in this concept?
It is funny that they meet together in the cage at the end of that area.
Yeah, right.
And speaking of moral issues with Princess Bubblegum, we have the Duke.
Oh, the poor Duke.
Where she already hates the Duke of Nuts and has kind of banished him. And then Jake and Finn are doing something that probably is not very wise if you're a D&D aficionado, is taking a bag of random potions and just tossing them around.
Yeah.
And one of them actually hits Princess Bubblegum, turning her green and bald.
One that looks kind of like a boomerang when you think about it. Yeah.
And it's as she's going to an important meeting too.
But here's another one. Like, she sends them after him, kind of saying, like, she thinks that he did this. Finn knows that he did it. But she doesn't explain why she hates the Duke so much. And
No, she does in the end.
well, later she does. That's what I'm saying. But this is one where context could have been useful earlier.
Oh, don't ever expect context from Bubblegum. Do not ever expect context.
It turns out the Duke has a pudding deficiency.
There is a good chance that she probably would have had him executed if they hadn't intervened.
That sounds like a deficiency I'd like to have. A pudding deficiency. Sorry, Doc. I have to have pudding.
Right.
But I remember they're like, we got to take you in and take you out. And he's like, they're trying to convince themselves, well, he must be a bad guy because, Princess Bubblegum hates him. But then you find out why at the end.
Yeah.
It's not the last we see of the Duke of Nuts, but we don't
No.
see a ton of him later.
Yeah.
And then, and of course, they remedy this by having somebody else masquerade as Princess Bubblegum for the meeting.
Yeah, it's Finn and Jake. Yeah, both of them somehow. But then wasn't it like the Marquess of Nuts and some random squirrel that has it in for Jake had showed up ready to.
Oh, I remember that. Like nobody. It's like, how can anybody hate anybody? And the squirrel is like really pissed off, writing like a Reddit letter to the editor.
Evil squirrel.
That squirrel really had it in for Jake.
Yeah,
it really did.
That dog squirrel.
What's funny is that we were actually without internet and cable for the last 4 days because a squirrel had eaten into our
Really?
Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Should have taken in Jake.
Squirrels are evil, man. They'll destroy everything.
Yeah.
So we move into the episode which has my least favorite character in the entire series, Magic Man.
Oh,
I detest Magic Man.
that was a weird.
I
episode.
don't like Magic Man. He's like the unmagic man.
He is such a piece of shit.
I'm just shutting up on Magic Man. So
and you know, I'm not going to spoil a lot because he is featured later, but my opinion, but I will say this much. My opinion does not change. Magic Man has some development, but not enough that would make me change my mind. Magic Man is a dick. Magic Man...
He's always a dick. I mean, that's a given. But
I mean, they come upon this old individual, and of course, he asks for some food. They give him like something. I can't remember what it was. It was like, and they say, well, you know, and he ends up turning Finn into pretty much a giant foot. They say, well, that's what you get for trusting me, or something like that.
Right.
And then Finn ends up having to take refuge with the other freaks under the bridge, who also were affected by the Magic Man.
Right.
Who, by the way, is one of the most powerful characters in the series.
oh yeah.
And this is also an episode where I was very frustrated with Jake's weirdly unhelpful nature at times.
Except being a foot.
But we come to find out later that Jake apparently has a really weird variation on the foot fetish theme. And he was jealous of Finn. And I'm like, that's still kind of messed up the way you were pushing him to embrace it.
I do like how they all formed together to attack him. And
yes.
Basically, the whole idea was basically to say, yeah, we know you're a dick. I know you finally got it. And then that was what was the whole thing. Reverse the spell.
Yeah, that was weird. And then, of course, everyone else just decides, hey, it's more fun to be one like a construct.
Right.
Yeah.
It's important to have the Magic Man introduced, so I can't really say that I think the episode is bad, but it just, I guess it does make the point that he is a dick. And that is true.
It does make the point. It does make that point.
Next up is Donnie.
Donnie's
Donnie the Grass Ogre. Was bullying a village, a small village where the houses are people.
Yes.
And Jake and Finn decide to go civilize them. But unfortunately, some wolves.
He's like a bulked up version of the Green
Guy. Wolves, I believe.
Wolves. Yes, some wolves end up coming in and destroying the houses. And it finds out that they interrupted a very delicate cycle of life.
Right. He produced what was it, Obnoxygen or something?
Yeah.
Obnoxygen.
Obnoxygen.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was an interesting idea. That character annoyed me, but yeah, I guess he was supposed to be. He was obnoxious. Yeah.
Hey, they actually made Donnie into a decent guy, but unfortunately they needed him to be obnoxious in order to.
Does Donnie show up anytime later in the show?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't remember him showing up.
I mean, it's kind of a one-off thing, but it is more world building that I do like this episode for the world building.
I like it because it's amusing.
Yes.
I like that it does show that there is a delicate balance. This one this one has a lot in common with the previous episode. Let's see here, Memories of Boom Boom Mountain, in the fact that there is a delicate balance to the world, and it does want to make sure that you see that and understand it.
Yeah.
As weird as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah. Then we have Henchmen, where we get to see Marceline again, where Finn basically agrees to be Marceline's henchman in order to free her other henchmen.
Right.
He has to obey her seemingly evil commands,
right,
which almost always seem more evil than they really are. And Finn finds out that she's basically fucking with him.
Pretty much, yeah. And when he finally realizes it, she fires him because she's like, now I'm going to be bored because you're more fun when I can screw with you. But she does have some fun with that. And we talked earlier about the red thing. There's like this dude with this enormous red bow tie, and she makes it look like she's going to feed on him, and then just sucks the bow tie dry and turns it white. And that was kind of fun.
And Finn does get closer to her in that episode.
Yeah,
they become much more friends than they were in previous, when he actually basically saves her from being stabbed to death by Jake, who's trying to overcome his fears for his buddy.
Indeed.
Which you do find. I mean, as it develops, I mean, Marceline and Finn do become good friends. So it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You'll regularly see her hang out and just be like chilling with them. I mean, she like I said, she's the cool one. She's supposed to be the chill, cool one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Then, of course, Rainy Day Daydream, which, of course, you have a boring day, and
boring day of knife rain. Let's get it straight.
Yes.
As it happens.
As it happens.
That's what happens when the environment gets screwed up.
Exactly. It starts raining knives. Where they go, I don't know afterwards.
But Jake says, let's use our imaginations, and Finn's like, that's a baby game. Then we find out that Jake's imaginations.
What's the line? It was what was it? I'd rather die than use my imagination, or something like that.
I mean, it is interesting that Jake's imagination really does run wild.
Yeah.
And they it is interesting how they have to do that.
Yeah.
But that's one of those ones that shows kind of the nonsensical nature and weird magical nature of the world.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on that?
I mean, it's very much a nice little kids, get out and use your imagination concept that a lot of shows do, and it's a cute one. But yeah, don't live in your imagination, but use your imagination.
And at the end, Finn does learn to use his imagination, not brilliantly, but he does learn to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Princess Bubblegum not giving details, we have What Have You Done? Which, without giving good details, Wonder why when that's happened. Princess Bubblegum tells Finn and Jake to capture the Ice King as her prisoner, but they struggle to defend their actions when they try to interrogate him. That's one of those "Are we the bad guy?" episodes.
Yeah, very much so. It's very much.
Princess Bubblegum does not make herself look like the good guy at all in the whole thing. You get to understand later the explanation that
Whereas the last Ice King episode was very, Ice King at his worst. This is Ice King at his, growing niceness.
It shows his innocence level.
Yeah, his innocence level.
He didn't mean to do what he did, where his beard dandruff essentially ended up causing a disease to the ice people.
He thought he was doing something nice by giving them snow. He really thought he was doing something nice. Yeah. He had no idea. This is kind of like with Finn and Donnie. Like sometimes you do things without understanding the consequences. And of course, Bubblegum takes it personally, and because again, she does care about her people, and she's fiercely protective of her people.
Yes. And you do find out that she does try to do it diplomatically at first.
Right.
But without telling them anything, she looks like a freaking maniac.
We can say that the Ice King has been quite villainous. And at first, Finn and Jake are more than willing to go along with it because, oh yeah, he's a bad guy. But then when he's like, I don't know what I've done evil lately. And they're like, oh, you're right. What? I guess there's a statute of limitations on kidnapping princesses.
I will say a later episode, there's a line from Ice King that he says, well, I haven't kidnapped any princesses in the last 4 days.
Yeah. So it was I don't know if we mentioned earlier with Nefta or whatever, he had this weird compulsion to kidnap princesses.
Yes, he did. We did.
That Darth Vader moment. It's like, come, my son, we will kidnap princesses together. Of course, we introduce one of the greatest heroes of the world, Billy, his hero. And Billy is like, you know what? I think violence is there. He's kind of almost an Arnold style. Well, he's obviously Stalin Conan the Barbarian.
Well, I mean, he's voiced by Lou Ferrigno, the original Incredible Hulk. So it's interesting to have somebody who was, known for being a huge muscular dude that was a monster of raging violence in history come and play a barbarian who's of peace.
Right.
Which, of course, they realize that, of course, Finn and Jake come to realize, of course, sometimes violence is needed.
Well, basically, Billy has decided to become peaceful because he sees violence as pointless. Like, it doesn't make a difference, according to him. And so the others they try.
It ends up creating much worse.
Yes. I think one of them said something like, I think we're doing more harm being nonviolent or something like that.
Well, didn't they turn like some of the because they decided to create some kind of gruel.
Yeah.
And ultimately we're turning people giving people more hardened outside.
He was giving them stone skin potion,
Yeah. Like, I had a stone skin potion, and
as you do,
be better protected.
How much of that did you use?
Yeah, what was it, like 5, 6 vials?
That must be a very easy potion to create. As many they were feeding.
Well, see, Finn and Jake have been hoarding like treasure. I mean, you can see in
the throughout the seasons, you see the treasure hoard.
Yet not enough swords.
Well, it changes a little bit in the future. A little.
It does. But it's kind of funny how rarely Finn has a sword, even though he likes swords in this first season. And the one that he does carry around occasionally is a rusty, battle-damaged one.
Well, that's because he hasn't gotten a blank named sword. I don't want to name it, but he gets a sword, I believe, in mid-second season.
Well, he gets several swords, which is
yeah, but he gets one that he's stuck with, or that he's with for about 3 seasons.
Oh yeah. I mean,
actually, we should point out in this episode, the whole thing that starts the whole thing is they come across the sword of Billy, just stuck in the ground, and that's how they find Billy.
Which is sad because they don't end up taking that sword; they give it back.
No, because Billy's the hero, and they don't want to take Billy's sword.
Well, and Billy realizes, well, maybe I do need a little bit of violence in my life.
And Brandon, we both know about Billy.
Yeah.
And I like how at the end, they are convinced not to listen to Billy because he's old, and the person who convinces them is an old woman.
Yes. that is funny.
To be fair, I think Billy's age is he's one of the older characters. He's not as old as other characters in this series.
Not as old as Ice King.
He is one of the older. No, not as old as Ice King, or Marceline, or
1,000.
No. Well, no.
She did say
yes,
she was 1,000.
He said she's around 1,000.
Yeah.
Ice King's around the same age, actually a little older.
Little older.
And same with Bubblegum.
Oh.
She is not a teenager. She is a very old person.
But that also kind of has a creepy connotations considering the potential relationship between her and Finn. But they don't go anywhere with it, so
no.
At least not yet. So last episode. Gut Grinder.
Yeah.
Where a giant monster is going around eating gold called the Gut Grinder, and he looks like Jake.
Yeah.
And this caused a lot of people to be pissed off at them. And
he has to make himself so small so that each of the people that he comes across rubs his stomach or
he's like regular size. But they keep going into town where he's a giant, and you'd think they'd pick up after the first town that he shouldn't come into town as a giant.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, if you had a dog that can change their shape and you have to go and travel distances between villages, would you not ride the dog?
Yeah, but get off him out of town and walk into town. Although I'm sure Brandon very much appreciated the way they entered that third town.
I thought the whole thing was entertaining in itself, and I did like the whole twist at the end of who the Gut Grinder was. But it in general, I think again, they ended the first season with a fun episode, kind of showing the weirdness of the world and the variety of towns and species of peoples in that world.
Yeah,
I mean, the pointy people. You had it was just a whole group of weirdness.
Yeah,
but they all like gold.
Yeah,
of course.
Mm-hmm.
So do dragons.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
So I guess we'll go real quick as far as the rest of it, because I know that Jake wants to try and get off, and we're getting close to that 11:30 mark.
Yeah.
Let's of course, animation style. We've talked a little bit about it, but do you have anything to add, Brittany, on animation? Since I know you're the animation person here.
I mean, it's very clean and intentional, the animation the way it is. I'm noticing the horse in the picture. You guys will meet the horse in the second season. That's what that gray horse-like creature is. It is a horse. Well, kind of. But yeah, it's silly. It's meant to be cutesy and cuddly with dark moments, and it will get creepy real fast in the next season. at times.
I like the peppermint guy. That's
Peppermint Butler may or may not be a worshiper of Satan.
Peppermint Butler is one of my favorite characters in the series because he is such a
and Scruffy, who's the one with the hat underneath Ice King and the mustache, is your conspiracy theorist radio host in the series.
Yeah.
Scruffy reminds me of the janitor in Futurama.
I think he's
Also Scruffy.
designed off of that Scruffy.
I said before, I don't really love the look of the characters, but from my perspective, I would say the show animation could have been a lot worse. It's more the style is hard getting used to. But I'm sure it gets cleaner as it go on, right?
I mean, the style doesn't change, but the quality of the animation changes.
Right.
It's sort of like
to the better. I mean, it gets a much bigger budget going on.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's I guess One Piece would be a good example of something like that. The style doesn't change in One Piece. The characters don't look different, but the quality gets better.
I mean, if you look at season 1 of One Piece versus current run of One Piece, it's night and day. But I mean, you're talking in that case, you're talking about a series that started 26 years ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's why it's so freaking different in its look.
Mm-hmm.
This series had what 10 seasons, I believe.
I can't remember.
Something like that.
Been a couple of seasons, at least 2.
So I mean, in its time, it does develop, greatly from what it's at, but at the same time, it's meant to be child friendly and imaginative, and that's the concept. And I do feel that One Piece did inspire this series a little bit more as well, because the world building, because the design. I mean, because you have Jake with very much Luffy-esque powers. It's you can see some of the elements of the world building that Pendleton came up with, and you can see the snail now that David's not with us.
Yeah.
So snail.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, there's the snail. Yeah, I'll have to look for that in the next season. I guess.
Try to find him in each episode. He's there. There is a cheat sheet out there to find him in each episode, but
it's a game.
it's a game within the show to find the snail.
So we'll go ahead real quick with music. I know that the person who sings the music is the creator, but at the same time, I don't know why, but it sounds like Michael Cera is singing the song.
It's Pendleton Ward. I mean, that's his voice. It's him singing that song. And of course, they brought in. Each character has songs throughout the series. Marceline having the most, of course, because she's a performer.
Right.
But I mean, I think everybody has a song, but it's in different styles.
I would say I don't love either of the themes, but the ending one in particular is very catchy and relaxing, and it would be a nice chill way to end each episode if they didn't abruptly cut it off and do that Federator thing.
Yeah, I mean, Sit Ubu is still stuck in my head from childhood. Okay, so I like the songs. They're a little catchy here and there. Some of them are best. I mean, you will start season 2 with a catchy song with Marceline's "Daddy, where are my French fries?"
Yeah, you get Marceline development in that, and you get to meet her dad, which is another asshole character,
and Eldritchian horror in its own right too.
Well, like I said, there are some powerful characters in this series, and we've met a few of them already. I mean, Magic Man is probably the most powerful one that we met this season, but. That's
I
because
mean, Ice King's powers are, when you learn about them, are a lot more, are very
Yeah.
powerful.
yeah, but as Ice King is using them right now.
Yes, the person using it definitely shows.
Yeah, if
difference.
Ice King in season 1 was to go off against Magic Man in season 1, Magic Man would win.
Yes.
So it looks like we may have lost Dave. So thanks for joining us, Dave.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up next. So we're going to try and hit things a little bit quicker this time and do the 28th for season 2.
Okay.
I think that season 2 will grab attention quickly, so you'll want to watch extra episodes back to back.
Hmm.
Like I said, I've already gotten this season or episode 11 in just one sitting because I didn't realize how many episodes I'd gone through.
Right.
So, but it'll be a fun watch, I think. As far as this is concerned, of course, we've got some wonderful people here. I'll go ahead and say best wishes to Dave from Inside Movies Galore, which we debuted our new opening theme this time, which is kind of cool because we have an actual HD opening theme instead of a little one that was there. If you have a chance, of course, watch that in Delusions of Grandeur. And we've started our coverage of Shrek. We are covering Shrek 2 next week, as a matter of fact. Of course,
that's Shrek.
Actually, and of course, Brittany, of course, you're welcome on anytime you want to come on the show.
I might drop in for the Shreks. I definitely will drop in for. I'd be happy to drop in for Shrek 2.
Well, that'll be
it's the best Shrek, in my opinion.
That'll be this Monday. So if you have an interest, one of the things we did notice with that was like, man, this looks kind of rougher than I remember it when I first watched it. But
Right.
yes, check in for Dave. Of course, with Jake, you can check in on this channel and any of his projects as they come to fruition. But you've got a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah, way too many. And I'm going out of town tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun, but has even more stuff on the plate.
Hey, for times that you're like chilling, you should bring that portable DVD player and throw on an episode of Adventure Time.
Well, I mean, I'm going to have to bring that if I'm okay. So, like I said, I still don't know for certain that I'll be able to do Shrek 2. I really hope to, because that is my favorite one.
Oh yeah, that's also one that you'd have to bring with you.
But I would need that player most likely, unless people want to watch it, which may be a thing. So,
hey,
yeah,
I'll give it this. Shrek 2 is one of those that most people do enjoy.
Right.
Shoot, you might even be able to get some of them in Adventure Time because the second season is actually very enjoyable.
Maybe.
Of course, Brittany has got her own channel where she does live streams. She does art, lots of art.
Yeah, we've been going a little crazy with the live streams. I don't know what's going on. We're getting a lot of attention.
Demon Blade.
We have Demon Blade. We have Witchin, and as I've noted, I'm currently working on a comic for a comic contest with Clip Paint Studio that is actually going to be the prequel to Witchin. So that'll be coming out. It's kind of interesting, and yeah, a lot of stuff on my own plate, but I'm willing to take on more still because I got nothing better to do right now.
Yep. And of course, for those of you who like this channel, don't forget we had a pickup episode today with me and Jake as we show off, and I show off my new Arby's dice, which I will be using against the people who play the Adventure Time RPG with. I
believe I showed off my copy of this series, if I'm remembering.
There you go. So we have some Adventure Time goodness on that. And this Thursday, for those of you who want to tune in, I do a review of Camp Blood X, which is the one animated Camp Blood one. And if you thought Shrek looked rough, this one definitely is animation done on probably a $100 or $200 budget. So, Yeah. So you can imagine what that looks like. But still, interesting to see what they did with that, like couple $100. I guess then we will see each other next time. Who knows? Like I say, I'll shoot you a link if you wanna come on for next week. And
definitely shoot me a link, because I'm free Monday. That's usually my research day for Tuesday streams, but I can do both.
And we will see you all on the next one.
Bye.
Good night.
All right. Bye.
SeptumSin versus the world. It's that place for all the boys and girls. You'll feel real safe, you'll feel real warm. It's a cozy place to ride out the storm. SeptumSin! SeptumSin and his best boy Jake see the trends that scare us every day. Physical media is going to the side. Doctor streaming will rule the world in time.